Does this sound like you? You bought this charm pack because you loved it in the store, you brought it home, and you didn't really know what to do with it? And does this also sound like you? You have a pile of old jeans laying around that need to be used, and you're not really sure when you're gonna get around to making that quilt? Well, I have a great solution. So this is a simple project. It takes one charm pack and a couple pairs of adult jeans, and you can whip this quilt together in just a few hours. Even if you're brand new to sewing, brand new to quilting, this is a really simple project to use up those fabrics that you love. And so make sure to follow along, and I'll show you how to make it from start to finish. So here's what you're gonna need. We have our cutting mat, a rotary cutter, some scissors. Pins are really helpful for this, and of course sewing machine and an iron. We have a charm pack. It's just a pack of 5-inch squares, and you can get them from our website. We have so many different ones that would look so cute with the denim. This one is called Portsmouth. It's from Riley Blake, and I love the way it looks with the jeans. And I'm gonna show you how to cut up a pair of jeans. So when I have a pair of jeans that are gonna be retired, this one got a hole in a really inconvenient place. So we're gonna cut this up and make it into the squares. And for this, I used 2 or 3 pairs of adult jeans. I actually kind of pulled from my stash of a few different ones, so I'm not sure exactly how many but that I used, but we'll have enough if you do that. So we're gonna lay out the pair of jeans, and I'm gonna take my fabric scissors and cut right along the outside seam. And when you get to the pockets, there's a lot going on. Sometimes people use these for jean quilts, like pockets and the different stitches. I won't be on this one, just to keep it simple, so we'll just cut off this top part. And then we're gonna go back down the leg, cutting right next to the other seam. To get as much of the fabric as you can usable, cut as close as you can to this seam so that you have a nice flat piece. And this doesn't have to be anything super pretty or straight lines yet. We'll figure that out in the next step. Now I'm going to cut off the bottom hem. And we're gonna set this lovely pair of jeans aside. And I'll show you how to cut 5-inch squares out of this leg piece. So we have our little leg here. I've cut off all the seams, so it's just a flat piece of denim. I'm gonna fold it in half. And to match the charm pack, we're gonna cut it into 5-inch squares, or 5-inch strips first. So I'm gonna line this up on the mat. And I'm gonna just start cutting 5-inch strips. And it looks like this end piece is gonna be just big enough for me to cut another 5-inch square. So now that we have all these little 5-inch strips, they're obviously not square yet, so we're gonna run and square them up. And it looks like this is my widest piece. It's not quite 10 inches, so I won't be able to get 2 squares out of that. So we'll just cut it and go from the center of it. All right, so now we have our first little stack of 5-inch squares. I'm just gonna inspect them, make sure all of them look good. So this one has some of the wear and tear on the jeans, which is really cute in jeans, but for using it for quilts, I don't recommend it because you already have a spot that's worn out. So if you wanted to use a piece like this, come in from behind and patch it, or patch it in the front. But if you were gonna just leave a piece like this blank, it doesn't work great for quilts. So we'll just use our whole pieces here, and next we can make our first 9-patch block. So this is gonna be my first 9-patch block. This piece has 5 pieces of denim. Each block is alternating so that you'll have 5 pieces of denim in one, and then you'll switch out these spots for 4 pieces of denim to 5 pieces of cotton in the next. And that might make a little more sense when we sew all the rows together. And for reference, I got about 24 5-inch squares from each pair of pants. So that gives you a reference. If you're using adult jeans, then that's about how many. You'll need about 2 pairs to make this quilt. We will do 40 pieces of denim and 41 pieces of the cotton in this. And the charm packs come with 42 pieces, so you'll actually have one little extra when you're done. Let me grab these top 2 pieces. We're gonna place them right sides together, and double check on your denim because sometimes it can get kind of confusing which side's the front and back. One thing about using pre-cuts is they have a pinked edge. A lot of them come with this pinked edge that makes it kind of tricky to know where to line up your seams. So every manufacturer is different. We're just gonna check where is their 5-inch. So there, it looks like with Riley Blake, their 5-inch is right in the middle of the pinked lines. So when we line up our squares, we're gonna line up so we can just barely see the denim behind it, and then you'll see that that's the same around every side. So I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch in, 1/4 inch seam allowance, then we'll flip it and press it. And I've explained this on other videos. This little scrappy piece is what I call a leader. I use it when I'm piecing, especially when you have to start and stop a lot, because it keeps like all of the extra threads in one place. So when I'm done with this block, I don't have threads hanging off the edges. It just keeps it clean. So now we're gonna open this and we're gonna press it. We'll press the seam towards the cotton fabric. Now that that's done, we'll take the next piece of denim and lay it right sides together. And I like to make sure that when I have it lined up here, it also looks like it's lined up down here with this other piece. And that's gonna make sure that we keep our quilt straight throughout. So now I'm gonna do something called chain piecing. I'm gonna leave this piece on and I'm just gonna start right into the next fabric. So we'll lay that right sides together. And this one is a directional print. So make sure that you're paying attention. If your charm pack has a lot of directional prints, that you keep the direction consistent throughout your quilt. Now all my seams are pressed. You can see they lay nice and flat, and we iron them all in alternating directions. So when you iron just towards the cotton, then it keeps it alternating directions so that sewing these blocks together is so easy. So we'll flip this back over, and I'm gonna start by sewing this top 2 pieces together. So when I take this, I'm gonna make sure that my seams right here, like the folded edges, are touching. They're like bumping into each other. And then we're gonna take a pin and pin that in place. And we'll do the same thing over here. And since there are all kinds of denim, stretchy, thick, thin, worn out, more sturdy kinds, pins are a really big help on this quilt, because fabric that wants to stretch doesn't always want to play very nice. So pins are a definite recommendation. And then let's talk about thread color. So I'm using a light gray thread because it looks good with all of the cotton fabrics, and it blends in with the denim so that when you open it up, and even if this stretches out a little bit, you're not gonna notice the gray thread very much. So if I were using like a neon green thread on this and you stretched it, you'd be able to see those little neon green threads in the quilt. And it's just so sad, like it's so easy to prevent that. So use a coordinating thread color. And we're just gonna sew at 1/4 inch. I'm opening this up to check and make sure that I have it lined up correctly, that this directional print is going the right way. And yeah, we'll just sew down the row. And then once we have this piece sewn, we're gonna press it towards where most of the things are going, towards the cotton. So obviously this denim piece will be folded, but these ones won't be. And the less or the fewer times you have the denim folded, the less bulky your quilt's gonna be. And reducing bulk at the corners is very helpful for when you're doing your quilting or tying. But first we're gonna pin this on, or pin this together, and we'll press the whole thing at once. Now we have it all pressed. We are gonna sew it to our next block, which, as I was explaining before, is, so this one has 5 pieces of denim, this one only has 4. So we're gonna take the same thing, or do the same thing that we did before, where we line these seams up and sew it down. And I'm gonna go ahead and sew all 3 of my blocks for this row together. So now we're gonna just do the same thing. I've sewn this row together, I've pressed the new seams, and we're gonna take the next row that I already had pieced before we started the video. We're gonna do the same principle of sewing the blocks together, where we flip it and sew the rows. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin all the way down. I want to pin on every seam just because I wanna make sure that my corners look perfect. And I'll meet you back here. So sometimes I get asked, why wouldn't we just sew this whole thing together row by row? Like, sew this row, then sew this row, then sew this. And why would we do it in blocks instead? And the answer is, you can really do either, but doing it this way with the blocks and then sewing the blocks and then the rows makes it so you don't have to spend as much time pinning and doing that other thing. Pinning this whole row took a long time, and it gives you more chance for error. So if you want more accurate quilts, sew the blocks together and then sew the blocks into rows. Now my quilt top is all done. It looks so cute. I love these colors. I love the way it looks with these like patriotic type fabrics. They're really fun with the denim, but so many different kinds of charm packs are gonna look so cute with this pattern. So I'm gonna take it to my quilting machine and quilt it. We'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. It's definitely something that you can tie or you can quilt on your domestic machine. It's small enough that it doesn't get in the way of itself. And unlike most denim quilts, since we mixed it with the cotton, it's a little bit more lightweight. Like you still get the sturdiness of the denim squares, but it's easier to work with this way. So let's go quilt it and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Here's how it looks when it's all done. I used my long arm machine on it and we did this simple little pattern. It's pretty loose. If you're gonna use a long arm to quilt it, make sure that your patterns don't cross each other too many times, or it can get kind of tricky with the bulk in the denim. I used a different fabric to bind it and I put another one on the back. These are two things that I just had in my stash that coordinate well with the line, and I love how it looks. So if you have questions about sewing a denim quilt with a charm pack, or if you have any comments or helpful tips that anyone else would like to know, make sure to leave them in the comments and like and subscribe to see more of our quilting tutorial videos.